All right, welcome everybody. I'm your co-host today on the Howell Chamber Business Beat. We're excited to be back in the studio, bringing you some really great content today. And I'd like to introduce our show host, or my co-host here, Diane Samples, is with me in studio. Welcome, Diane.
Welcome. Hello. It's great to be here. I'm so excited to be back in studio. I love
know.
to say that.
I know
It feels so official.
It is. It's fun. It's exciting. It's been we love coming over here and just chatting with people and having some good conversation and talking about some really relevant topics that we're all kind of facing today. Now, one of the things that I was thinking of when we reached out to today's guest is just, people are really kind of in an agitated state, and we're noticing it more and more, and we're seeing that kind of creep into the workplace. So Joyce, who is also joining us, is really just kind of an expert in this area. And so I'm excited to talk more about that.
I'm excited too. I agree 100%. It's everybody just seems a little bit on edge, and you just never really know what is going to kind of set someone off on the wrong tone. And so I think it's going to be really great to hear some tips and just ways to kind of communicate without having that, having to worry about that, kind of having some more
guidance along that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, today we are joined by Joyce Weiss, and Joyce, she's there. She is. She wanted me to ask a few kind of leading questions as I introduce her today. So, we want to know: are you ready to discover new ways to communicate during tough conversations? That's always a challenge, tough conversations and navigating those. Do you want to know what it costs you when you don't know how to resolve conflict? That's a really interesting, thought-provoking question as well.
I think that is, yes.
Do your direct reports make it miserable for everyone at work because they are stuck in their career? I'm interested to learn more about that too. You'll be glad if you're here and if you answered yes to any of these questions, because if not, you might be in serious denial, according to Joyce.
Well, I think that question about what does it cost you is really important, because people base their decisions on what they have to lose. And sometimes you don't always stop and think about the loss factor. So I think that's a really unique way of phrasing
So our
that.
guest today is Joyce Weiss. She received her master's degree in counseling from Oakland University and has written 3 books. She has been selected as the official World of Business and Executive Coach Summit Curator in conflict resolution. I've had the personal opportunity to work with Joyce on a few things as well, and I look forward to joining her on her show in April. Kick Conflict to the Curb is her new live broadcast where she interviews thought-provoking leaders. She's one of only 215 women in the world who has earned the certified speaking professional from the National Speakers Association, which is amazing. Joyce is the queen of conflict resolution and works with individuals and small groups so they feel confident using their voices without losing their cool. She has had great success in helping others with her conflict resolution strategies, except at her family gatherings. That's right. That's when she must call in Dr. Phil and Judge Judy. Welcome, Joyce, and thank you for joining us today. Queen of conflict resolution, avid bike rider, bird watcher, and chocoholic.
Thank you so much. This is going to be exciting. I can already hear because of the two of you at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, so Joyce, you've got quite a resume, quite experience and background in conflict resolution and many other things. And as Diane and I were kind of leading into today's show, one of the things that we talked about is just kind of this general agitation that we're seeing day to day, and that creeps into our homes and into our personal lives. But what is it? What does it look like when it creeps into the workplace? And how do you
It's
manage
ugly.
those conversations? Yeah.
That's such a good question to begin this interview. It's ugly, and it doesn't have to be ugly. Meaning, all you have to do is learn how to either listen, and then after you learn how to listen to find out what's going on, how do you respond? And I'm afraid that most people don't know how to respond with all this ugliness. I say ugly because you're right. they many times bring unresolved conflict from home into work. And then it's like, for all you dog lovers, I am one too. But many times it's like kicking the dog or the cat or the bird. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people have misplaced anger, and we have to figure out, if it's not you, how do I have a conversation with this person without agitating them? Because it also can be very dangerous, and we know that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know that we mentioned a little bit as we were starting the show about you know, kind of your background, but can you tell me why you are considered to be the queen of conflict?
Well, before COVID, I was a motivational speaker, and conflict was always my lane. I feel very comfortable helping people. Either at that time, it was in front of thousands of people. And COVID sort of changed that. Like, meetings were canceled. Plus, it dawned on me, I think I'm ready to do something different. So, you already said in the introduction that I have a master's in guidance and counseling. So, I decided to hang my shingle as a communication coach. And Janelle and Diane, I walk my talk. And why do I say that? Because people who come to me many times as for them to be coached, they want to be heard. They just feel like they're being ignored. I thought about myself as a small girl, little girl. I was a late talker. My family finished my sentences. Then fast forward years later, I got married to an attorney who knew all about debate. I didn't have a clue. I didn't know how to debate. I had to figure out how to be heard in that marriage and how to negotiate. And as a result of that, first of all, I'm still married to the same guy. I
I wasn't
know.
going to
Happy
ask, but
happy to
yeah,
hear that.
yeah,
Yes.
me too.
Oh, a lot of work, let me tell you. But all that work helped, because now I can help people who don't feel heard or who
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to use that voice during tough conversations. So I didn't just read and get all this knowledge from education. It's life experience, and that's what I bring to the table. And
Well,
that's
I
my
think
final argument.
I think if you can navigate the emotions within your family, I think that is the best practice arena for having those difficult conversations in the workplace, because
Yes.
you just never know exactly what lays underneath the surface, and trying to find that, seeking to understand, I think is really important.
Yes, and seeking to understand. And what a good place to start some of these strategies that we're going to be talking about today is with your family. So start listening better. And I'm a good listener. No, we're not. Most of
Mm-hmm.
us need to be better. What I mean by that is, look at the body language even. Look and see
Mm-hmm.
what is the person following. Are they um, rolling their eyes? If so, call it out in a really positive way. I'm curious. I see you rolling your eyes. Is there something that I'm doing to make you feel uncomfortable? Something as easy as that, instead of, oh, stop rolling your eyes at me, will ya? I mean, it doesn't work. And why
Mm-hmm.
do we not communicate with our family? Because we get judgmental and we sound like we're putting them down, when all we have to do is back up a little bit, ask that curiosity question that usually works.
I feel like though sometimes people are afraid to ask that question. Like they're worried, is that going to come across as being like calling them out or putting them on the hot seat?
I th- and I think Joyce has some really great tools for that, and to talk about how you might be able to approach it without making somebody feel like they're in the hot seat.
Yes, and
Exactly.
and
Yes.
you were both talking about how unique, when I said, "How much is it costing you when you don't know how much conflict is costing you?" Is it money, relationships, feeling stuck all the time, feeling frustrated? So you're absolutely right, Janelle and Diane. People, they don't have the skill, so they will not ask that curious question, meaning, I'm curious. They have
Jo-
to learn the skills to feel confident.
Joyce, in your experience, if they don't have the confidence to ask that question, what's the long-term result?
Oh, uh, the relationship's going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's at work, whether it's talking to a bully at work, you're probably going to end up leaving if you didn't have that conversation because you can't take it anymore. And it's a good job and you're a star employee. Or if you don't have the confidence to talk to your boss or human relations about this because, oh, they're going to think that it's me and I'm a victim and I'm the bad one. No, we've got to take a stand. I don't mean like you go in with the punching bag, but your voice matters. So we have to figure out, how do you become confident? You first of all stop that negativity in your mind. Oh, I don't know how. I've never been good at this. I'm shy. Get that out of your mind and replace it with, if I don't do this, what's it costing me?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we need to have those difficult conversations with ourselves first and be able to get comfortable with asking ourselves those questions, and then feeling we'll have that confidence to go and be able to have those types of conversations with other people.
Thank you for getting that secret number one, Diane. That's huge.
I'm
That's
just talking from personal experience. I mean, I have to have those conversations with myself. I think everybody does. I mean, I think it's just
yes.
inherent that we have to kind of psych ourselves up to do things. But once we do that, it does. It's kind of I like to call it the Superman pose, where you just kind of have to take that second,
Mhm.
put your hands on your hips, stand with your feet apart, and just kind of suck in the air and be like, okay, I can do this, or ask yourself the tough question first.
Absolutely. I can do that. And again, to stop it's the imposter syndrome, which is, oh, I don't have the skills, I'm not good enough. The bully or my manager is so much smarter than I am. That's not true. That's a lie. And we have to sorry that my veins stick out when I talk about the imposter syndrome. But that's why there's so many examples that are going on at work and at school about bullies. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what's happening? The leaders don't know how to take care of bullies, and then all dangerous stuff happens. Or then they wonder, I wonder why we're having this great resignation, or however you want to call it when people leave your place of work, or even your own friends. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't if you're not honest and use your voice and set boundaries, especially with those toxic people, they're going to ruin it for you, either personally or professionally. And I know I'm sounding extremely strong on this. There goes my smile. Because this is what people come to me for as their coach. They
Mm-hmm.
can't take it anymore. And the good news is they figured that out. They go, how can I change? And by learning one or two um, ways to make a conversation safe. But you first have to have a conversation with someone about someone who is causing you stress. You're allowing it.
Absolutely. So we kind of talked a little bit about, what you're seeing in today's climate and what's happening in the workplace and how this creeps in and how it may lead to early departures or it may lead to relationship deterioration. So those are the challenges, right? And then how do you
Yes.
have the courage and build the courage to have those conversations and keep them positive? And, as Diane said earlier, keeping it and framing it in a way where you're not putting somebody on the defense or putting them in the hot seat, but really looking at trying to come up with a solution and looking for a way to overcome whatever obstacle is facing or whatever hurdle is kind of the challenge of that moment or of that relationship, whatever challenge is going on. So in today's economy, those are some general challenges we talked about. What are some solutions and how do you create that space to have that safe conversation?
Okay. So let's say you're a manager and you have an employee who is working at home, and this is just not working out for you. This employee's good, but working at home isn't working out so well. So many times people come to me saying, well, what do I do? Well, we all know the answer. You have to have that tough conversation. So, how do you have that tough conversation without making this employee feel like, oh God, I'm going to get fired? You start out with this is the first strategy in the Weiss Communication Success Plan, which is I don't want, I do want. This is a solution that you can do with every single conversation. George, I don't want to create stress between us. I do want to have an important conversation about working at home or coming to the office. Now, I realize okay, that's the solution. Now, I realize, Janelle and Diane, that you may be thinking, yeah, but now what? First, you got to make it safe. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to, I do want to is a great solution. And then this manager had to continue saying in a very truthful, non-judgmental way that you got to come back, you've got to come and work because maybe Sue or Bob are working from home. They've got different time management strategies. We still want you here. It's better off if you come here. That's just, those are the facts. You're not saying anything mean. It's not a story. Now it's up to the person who you're speaking to how they deal with it, of course.
I think that's a big part of it, as I think people are afraid of how that other person is going to deal with that. And so that
Yes.
causes them to not want to have that conversation because what's going to happen? How am I going to handle that
And
if
Yes.
such and such happens or this happens?
so they give pushback, and then what, Joyce? I mean,
Well, okay, I'm
stick to
going to
the
give you,
facts.
yeah, stick to the facts, no drama. I mean, let me tell you when people don't resolve conflict. And this is a story that many of you may have heard. I heard it a few days ago on the news that there was a 14-year-old girl that was walking down the hall with her boyfriend. Three bullies in the school grabbed her, threw some liquid in her face. She fell down. She blacked out. These bullies filmed that and put it on social media. The 14-year-old was okay. She saw it. She was so devastated. She ends up committing suicide. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because the superintendent quit because he said, you know what? We've had bullies in this school for years and I haven't known how to deal with it. That's what you that's what it costs you. And whether it's the school or whether it's and it's not just bullies, but leaders have to learn how to have these tough conversations or their good people will leave.
Mm-hmm.
And the toxic environment will continue, and you got to take a look at in a mirror and figure what status quo do I need to change.
Mm-hmm.
So the solution is you don't let it go on. If you're afraid, admit you're afraid and go get some help, whether it's contacting coaches, whether it's contacting your um, colleagues and have a meeting, say, hey, we're all experiencing things like this. What have you come up with? But my solution is you've got to deal with this. You've got to deal with the conflict. If not, it's just going to fester into a wound that's worse and worse, and nothing gets resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a great example. I mean, obviously it's the worst case scenario, but
Oh,
it's what happens when it festers. It's what happens when it's not dealt with. Or when
yes,
it's you're not able to work towards resolving the conflict. It just keeps multiplying. And that's I mean,
yes.
that's the sad truth of it, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And on another in another area, a lot of human resource professionals come to me, and they've been sharing lately that the some of the younger job applicants are not being realistic with the expectations are not realistic with the actual amount of money that they want because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes some of the new job seekers they want a as much as people are making at Google or Amazon. So the solution is that a lot of these human resource professionals, we get together in small groups and they've come up with, well, how can we sell this job if it's not money and not benefits? The solution is that they've come up with some great ideas talking about the internships and how we take care of the interns as well as we do full time. Sell the fact that they do internal job promotions, and when you come here, you get a mentor to help you. We care about your career path. Well, that's important for some of the younger generation who say, I know about mentorship. This is great.
So they're able to facilitate those conversations without conflict.
Yes, but first you're slammed with the stress. You're slammed with the conflict, whatever it is. There's usually a second right answer, but we first, and this is what Diane touched upon, you first have to have the conversation with yourself saying, I can't take it anymore. What can I do? Versus rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The same conflict. And that's what it's like. It's like being a gerbil. And we used to have gerbils when our kids were little. On that or a hamster on the hamster wheel,
Mm-hmm.
going nowhere. So, I mean, in my personal life, when I have conflict with our adult children, I can't come across as a mother. They're adults. I can't. Otherwise, it's the typical. Oh, you're judging me. No, it's how to have that tough conversation. You start with that easy. I don't want to. I do want to. Make it safe, and then that's when you can go deeper. I mean, is
Well,
this making sense to you?
oh,
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely. And I do think too, I mean, family is a great place to start, but I also think with family,
Yes.
um, you are much more likely to be brutally honest. Because I think there's not necessarily a fear there. I mean, the
filter.
fear factor has gone away in some
Yes.
instances because you know that they're your family. They're going to be there no matter what. So I think even navigating those can be challenging because of that. Like it's a comfortable space, but at the same time, I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. I know having a conversation with my mom is going to be a lot different than having a conversation with my dad about the same topic, just because I have a different relationship dynamic with my mom, and I know that I can be brutally honest with her. She's just going to always be there. Where my dad, he's just a little different. I got to frame the conversation in a different way, and but it is a good arena to kind of practice and even understand those different dynamics.
Yes, and what you do, what you're talking about, Janelle, is exactly, and we haven't talked about that. You have to know who you're having the conversation. You actually, besides saying, I can do this, with that imposter syndrome, you also have to figure who is my audience.
So
Your mother, you can go right to the jugular. She's going to be there.
that's what
Your
moms.
dad,
It's what we do.
Yeah.
We usually take the brunt
yes,
of it
Yeah.
all. But absolutely, I do. I think that, I mean, I have 3 kids, and each child has such a different and unique personality. It's
yep,
not a one size fits all. So
no,
sometimes you really have to step back and take a moment and be like, okay, who am I talking to? Like you said, know your audience and
yes,
be able to really communicate with them the way that they are going to hear it, or at least how you
yes.
hope they're going to hear it.
And write down your approach and practice it before. I mean, when coaching clients come to me, we practice it. But if you're not going to get help to help you make this go faster in your life, then write it down. This is what I'm going to say. Look in the mirror. I'm being very serious. Look in the mirror and practice it before, because it could backfire. And I'm holding out my finger. I'm not like that, but I'm just saying it could backfire if you don't plan it well. And it does at times. That doesn't mean you're going to give up. It just means, okay, you can apologize and say, this conversation didn't go as well as I wanted. And I really, am sorry about that. Are you okay if we start over? Because I have a really important statement that I would like to make so we can have a safe conversation. or something like that.
Oh, I
We're
like
not
that approach.
perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not perfect. And trust me, if you come to the family gatherings, you know that this queen of conflict, um, uh, communicate conflict resolution is not always perfect. I have the examples. I've created trademark material, and I'm darn good when it comes to. I know I am with my clients, and
Awesome.
I am many times with my family. Not all the time. And when it backfires, be real, and
Right.
you can even laugh about it. You say,
I
"Whoop."
think that's great advice because
You've got to, yeah.
I think people are afraid of that backfire, like how to handle that when it does backfire. So I think
Yes.
that's a great approach. Just be honest and real.
Absolutely. So we're getting ready to wrap up today, Joyce. I really
Mhm.
appreciate all of the insight that you've been able to share with us today. So I want you, I've got, I know at least one, what is it, Joyce's number one rule? I do want, I don't want,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yes.
What would you say your next key takeaway is?
I really want people to listen. And even though we know that it's not, it just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Stop your inner voice and stop thinking, oh, what am I going to say? How am I going to respond? No, listen and let that person know that this person that they were heard, whether it's at home or whether it's at work.
I love this because I have a 6-year-old that I really need to listen to me. So
Yes.
I do say to him often, Noah, do you hear me? So
And
I love that. And sorry, Joyce, go ahead.
no, and Noah, I'm curious. What did I say to you? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious because sometimes people hear something totally different, and that's important. That's a great way to start the conversation. Not that you're saying be a parrot and repeat back, but if you do it in a real casual way, I just want to make sure I was heard, that you understood before we go on. Just curious, what did you hear me say?
Now I know you can't
I,
take this into the workplace, but I also do that. Noah, can you hear me?
I'm going to start doing that, Janelle. I'm going to get across the table. Janelle, do you hear me?
Honestly, that would probably be good for me.
But I love the fact that you bring up the being curious because
Yes.
there's a certain author that I follow and he does always, his main mantra is to stay curious because you cannot be curious and angry at the same time. It's
I love that.
it's mentally impossible to be genuinely curious and
Yes.
be angry. So choose curious because that's going to get you to that point of understanding.
Yes, and I just want to take one, and I know we're wrapping up, but this is a great, maybe it's the last example. Um, there was a bully in my life who was always questioning why I'm still working when most of his friends are retired, and I used to push back and, oh, because I like it. Change it like this. You know, I'm curious. What makes you so interested in what I'm doing? That
Hmm.
shut him up. He doesn't do this anymore because I threw it back at him. So another strategy is it's just don't accept their negativity when they're trying to put you down. You throw it back with a curious statement and it throws it just you're not in the limelight anyway. They are. And
Mhm.
maybe, just maybe, they will think, that's a good point, and they'll stop. No guarantee, but yeah.
Well, that's a great
I mean, great
information and
takeaways.
strategies. Yeah,
I think they're simple and actionable. I mean, anybody can kind of practice with them.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Joyce, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Oh,
Thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you on and just talk about conflict because it is uncomfortable. And
yes.
I think some of the strategies you offered today are just really going to be useful to a lot of those that deal with this stuff. And like we said, on a day-to-day
You.
basis in our personal lives, our professional lives. So thank you so much. And if you want to do a quick contact information, we did include all of your social media handles and everything in our show
Sure.
notes. So we should be set there. But if there's anything else you want to add as we wrap up today.
I appreciate that question. And yes, briefly, if anybody wants to have it, it fell, so I'm hooked into here, so I can't pick it up. But I have a brand new template that I almost done creating, called 19 Secrets. You can see I'm very real here. It's on the floor. 19 Secrets for Successfully Navigating Life's Potholes, Ruts, and Obstacles. All you have to do, send me an email, joyce@joyceweiss.com, and I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Connect with me on LinkedIn. And then once we're connected, send me a message. Find out if you want to know when my show Kick Conflict to the Curb will be on. And yes, Janelle is going to be a guest in April on that. And also YouTube. I only have 250 very short videos. Subscribe there. Because
How many videos?
At least 250 every week.
But they're short.
They are. I'm just going to provide
it.
a quick testimonial for those. When Joyce had sent me her handles the other day, I clicked on it and it just started playing in the background. And I was like,
Yes.
These are good. And they're short. They're really easy to digest. And
Yes.
I actually listened for like 2 hours.
Well, I like that they're short because they're great to listen to in the car.
They are.
I mean, for short little jaunts, when it's not like a 3-hour car ride, you can get a quick little
Takeaway.
tidbit.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, and for the last one is go to joyceweiss.com. My coaching, there's a coaching page. You can sign up for my blog. So there's a lot of ways to connect, and it's not all about me, folks. It's what kind of resources you're going to find at all of those places. And I'm here to help anybody kick conflict to the curb. That's what I'm all about.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have on the Queen of Conflict.
Yes, it was. It
you,
really
Janelle
was. It was a lot of fun talking to you. And like I said, your takeaways are really, they're helpful. Really helpful.
Thank you.